Nathan Prescott's tears fell silently onto the antique mahogany desk as he clutched a worn locket in his trembling hands. But what happened next shocked everyone who knew the ruthless billionaire CEO. Just 12 hours earlier, he had orchestrated an elaborate test that would change everything. The glass towers of Manhattan stretched endlessly as Nathan sat in his corner office on the 72nd floor, his steel-gray eyes scanning quarterly reports with mechanical precision. "The Henderson deal is off the table," he declared, his voice cutting through the boardroom like a blade. "Their terms are unacceptable." His executives shifted uncomfortably in their leather chairs. Nathan Prescott didn't just build empires. He demolished anyone who stood in his way. At 34, he commanded a fortune that most could only dream of, yet something hollow echoed in every calculated decision he made. Meanwhile, across the bridge in a modest Queens apartment, Emma Larson stared at her phone with wide, anxious eyes. The cleaning agency had just called with an opportunity that seemed too good to be true. An emergency assignment at the Prescott Mansion in the Hamptons, her supervisor had explained. The regular staff is unavailable, and they need someone immediately for a private event preparation. Emma's hands trembled as she set the phone down. Nathan Prescott was a name whispered with reverence and fear throughout the service industry. His standards were legendary, his patience non-existent. "You should take it, sweetheart," her mother said softly from the kitchen doorway, noticing Emma's pale complexion. "Sometimes life gives us chances we never expected." "Mom, what if I mess this up? What if I'm not good enough?" Emma's voice barely rose above a whisper. The rent was 3 weeks overdue, and her mother's medical bills continued to pile up like autumn leaves. Her mother crossed the small room and took Emma's hands in hers. "You've been cleaning houses since you were 16. You know your worth even if others don't see it yet. This decision would change everything for us." Little did Emma know that Nathan Prescott had already learned her name, her background, her situation. As his black SUV pulled into his private driveway, Nathan issued precise instructions to his head of staff. "I want my bedroom left exactly as it is after tonight's entertaining. Don't clean anything. Don't organize anything. Leave it messy." "Sir." The butler's eyebrows rose slightly. Nathan's obsession with order was well documented. "You heard me correctly. And when the new maid arrives tomorrow, ensure she works alone. No supervision. No assistance." Nathan's jaw tightened with an emotion he couldn't quite name. "I want to see what she does when she thinks no one is watching." But the real shock was still coming. The next morning, Emma stood before the towering iron gates of the Prescott estate, her cleaning supplies packed neatly in a worn duffel bag. The mansion loomed like something from a Gothic novel, its limestone facade catching the early morning light. She'd never worked anywhere so magnificent, so intimidating. The head butler, a distinguished man named Frederick, led her through marble hallways lined with priceless artwork. "Mr. Prescott is resting and is not to be disturbed under any circumstances," he emphasized. "You'll find his private quarters require extensive attention." As they climbed the grand staircase, Emma noticed family portraits lining the walls. Nathan as a young boy, smiling alongside a woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. But those images seemed to fade as they ascended, replaced by stark architectural photographs and abstract art. Frederick stopped before an ornate door. "Mr. Prescott's bedroom. He had company last night. The room will need thorough cleaning." His expression suggested disapproval, but his voice remained professional. "Complete discretion is expected." Emma nodded, her heart hammering against her ribs. Frederick's footsteps echoed down the hallway, leaving her alone with the weight of this opportunity. She thought of her mother's encouraging words, of the stack of unpaid bills on their kitchen table, of the chance to prove herself worthy of something bigger. Taking a deep breath that seemed to draw courage from the very air around her, Emma reached for the brass door handle. Her fingers wrapped around the cold metal, and she paused for just a moment, unaware that this single action would set in motion events that would leave a billionaire CEO in tears and change both their lives forever. The door began to turn beneath her trembling hand. Emma's hand trembles slightly as she turns the ornate brass handle. The door opens with a barely audible creak, revealing Nathan's sprawling master bedroom. Her breath catches in her throat as she takes in the scene before her. The room is magnificent yet deliberately disheveled. Expensive suits are draped carelessly over antique chairs, papers scattered across a mahogany desk, and crystal glasses left abandoned on marble surfaces. It's clear this isn't natural chaos but a carefully orchestrated mess, and Emma knows exactly why she's here. On the king-sized bed, Nathan Prescott lies motionless, his chest rising and falling in what appears to be deep sleep. His dark hair is tousled against the silk pillowcase, and even in supposed slumber, his sharp features maintain that commanding presence she'd heard so much about. Emma's heart pounds as she realizes this is her test. "Okay, Emma," she whispers to herself, barely audible. "You can do this. Just clean quietly and prove you belong here." She begins methodically, starting with the farthest corner of the room. Every movement is calculated, every step deliberate. She's acutely aware that one wrong move could wake him and potentially end her employment before it truly begins. The weight of her mother's words echoes in her mind about taking chances and proving herself worthy of better opportunities. As Emma carefully folds one of Nathan's Italian suits, his phone buzzes loudly on the nightstand mere inches from his head. Emma freezes, her eyes darting between the vibrating device and Nathan's still form. The phone continues buzzing insistently, and she realizes she has seconds to make a decision. Without hesitation, Emma tiptoes to the nightstand and gently slides the phone away from Nathan's ear, muffling it against her palm until it stops. She holds her breath, watching for any sign that she's disturbed him. Nathan's breathing remains steady, but Emma doesn't notice the almost imperceptible curve of his lips or the way his eyes move slightly beneath his closed lids. "That was close," she breathes, returning to her work with renewed focus. What Emma doesn't see is Nathan's concealed observation. Behind his closed eyelids, he's acutely aware of every move she makes. Her gentle handling of his belongings, the way she straightens his desk without disturbing important documents, her instinctive understanding of what needs attention versus what should remain untouched. It's impressive, and Nathan finds himself genuinely intrigued by this quiet young woman. Emma works with surprising efficiency, transforming the chaotic room into organized elegance. She dusts each surface with care, arranges his books by what appears to be a system he'd actually use, and handles even his most expensive items with appropriate reverence. There's something almost meditative about her process, and Nathan realizes he's never encountered staff who work with such intuitive understanding. But then Emma approaches the antique armoire in the corner, reaching to dust its ornate carved top. Her fingers brush against something unexpected tucked behind a decorative molding. She pauses, her curiosity getting the better of her caution. Carefully, she retrieves what appears to be a small, silver-framed photograph that had somehow been knocked behind the furniture. As she brings it into the light, her entire body goes rigid. The photograph shows a younger Nathan, perhaps in his 20s, standing between an elegant older woman and a distinguished gentleman. But it's not just any family photo. The woman bears a striking resemblance to Emma herself, the same gentle eyes and soft smile. The setting appears to be this very mansion, but filled with warmth and life that seems absent now. Emma's hands shake as she stares at the image. Something about it feels deeply personal, almost sacred. She glances toward Nathan's sleeping form, then back at the photograph, her mind racing with questions she doesn't dare voice. The silence in the room suddenly feels heavy with unspoken history, and Emma realizes she's stumbled upon something far more significant than a simple cleaning assignment. This photograph represents a piece of Nathan's soul that he's kept hidden from the world, and she's accidentally become witness to his most private pain. Emma's fingers trembled as she stared at the ornate silver frame that had tumbled from behind a stack of books. The photograph inside showed a younger Nathan, perhaps in his 20s, standing between a distinguished older man and an elegant woman with kind eyes. Their smiles radiated warmth and genuine happiness, emotions she'd never seen on Nathan's face during their brief encounters at previous events. The family resemblance was unmistakable. Nathan had his father's strong jawline and his mother's gentle eyes, though those same eyes now seemed perpetually guarded. Emma carefully picked up the frame, studying the image more closely. There was something achingly familiar about the woman's expression, a tenderness that reminded her of her own mother's encouraging words just hours earlier. "That was taken at his parents' anniversary party," a soft voice said behind her. Emma spun around, clutching the photo to her chest. Maria, the head housekeeper, stood in the doorway with a sympathetic smile. "I'm so sorry. I wasn't snooping, it just fell and—" "It's all right, dear," Maria interrupted gently, stepping into the room. "Mr. Prescott wouldn't leave that photo out if he didn't want it found occasionally." Her eyes grew distant as she gazed at the frame in Emma's hands. "He was devastated when they passed. Car accident 3 years ago. Changed him completely." Emma felt her heart clench. She glanced toward the bed where Nathan lay motionless, his breathing steady and deep, or so it appeared. Something about his stillness seemed almost too perfect, but she pushed the thought away. "He used to laugh all the time," Maria continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Had friends over constantly, through charity galas here at the mansion. Now look at this place. Empty, cold, like a museum. He hasn't had a real conversation with anyone in months." The weight of understanding settled heavily on Emma's shoulders. She looked around the pristine bedroom with fresh eyes, seeing not just expensive furnishings, but a carefully constructed fortress. Every surface gleamed, every object perfectly placed. A sterile environment designed to keep the world at arm's length. "He tests everyone now," Maria added, watching Emma's face carefully. "Staff, business partners, even family friends. Always watching, always waiting for people to disappoint him. I think he's forgotten that some people are genuinely good." Emma's pulse quickened. "Tests them how?" Before Maria could answer, Nathan stirred slightly on the bed, and both women froze. After a moment, his breathing returned to its previous rhythm, and Maria gestured for Emma to follow her toward the door. But what would happen if someone actually saw past his walls? Emma wondered, her mind racing. What if someone showed him the same unconditional kindness her mother had always shown her, even when money was tight and hope seemed distant? She carefully placed the photograph back where she'd found it, but not hidden behind the books this time. Instead, she positioned it on the nightstand where the morning light would catch it perfectly. A small act of rebellion against the sterile perfection surrounding Nathan's life. As she gathered her cleaning supplies, Emma made a decision that would change everything. She pulled a small piece of notepaper from her apron pocket and quickly wrote a few words before tucking it discreetly under the corner of the photo frame. The note was simple, written in her careful handwriting. "Some memories are too precious to hide. Your parents would be proud of the man you've become." Emma quietly followed Maria from the room, unaware that her modest act of kindness had been observed by eyes that weren't quite as closed as they seemed. Behind them, the note fluttered slightly in the breeze from the air conditioning, and Nathan Prescott felt something stir in his chest that he hadn't experienced in 3 long years. But as Emma reached for the door handle, the folded paper slipped from her apron pocket and drifted silently to the marble floor, landing where Nathan would surely find it the moment he woke up. The handwritten note lay crumpled on Nathan's mahogany desk, Emma's careful cursive barely visible in the dim study light. He smoothed it out with trembling fingers, reading her words for the 3rd time. "Thank you for trusting me with your space. I hope I brought some peace to your day. E." Nathan's chest tightened as he stared at the simple message. In 20 years of employing countless staff members, no one had ever thanked him for the privilege of cleaning up after him. Most saw him as nothing more than a paycheck, a demanding boss to endure. But Emma, this quiet stranger, had seen something worth acknowledging. "Sir." His assistant Marcus appeared in the doorway. "The car is ready for your downtown meeting. Cancel it." Nathan folded the note carefully, placing it in his jacket pocket. "I have something more important to handle." Marcus looked stunned. Nathan Prescott never canceled business meetings. "Sir, the Hartwell merger will survive another day." Nathan's voice carried an unfamiliar softness. Tell them something urgent came up. As Marcus retreated, Nathan walked to his private safe, spinning the combination with practiced ease. Inside, nestled between legal documents and emergency cash, sat a small velvet box. His hands shook as he lifted it out, revealing his mother's antique locket. The one piece of jewelry she'd worn every day until cancer stole her voice, then her breath, then everything else. He hadn't looked at it in 3 years. Nathan carried the locket to his bedroom, where Emma's presence still lingered in the precisely arranged pillows and the faint scent of lavender cleaning solution. Everything looked perfect, yet somehow felt warmer than before. He placed the locket deliberately on his nightstand, then returned to bed, closing his eyes and slowing his breathing. The waiting felt eternal. Would Emma notice? Would she understand its significance? More importantly, what would she do with this test of trust? Footsteps echoed in the hallway 40 minutes later. Nathan's pulse quickened as Emma entered, her movements even more careful than before. Through barely open eyelids, he watched her freeze when she spotted the locket. "Oh my," she whispered, approaching the nightstand with reverence. "This is beautiful." She picked it up gently, examining the intricate engraving on its surface. Nathan held his breath as she opened it, revealing the faded photograph of his mother holding 5-year-old Nathan at Christmas morning, both of them laughing at something just outside the frame. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "She looks just like you," she murmured to his sleeping form. So much love in her eyes. But here's what made Nathan's heart stop completely. Instead of setting the locket aside or leaving it where she found it, Emma carefully cleaned it with her soft cloth, polishing away years of tarnish until it gleamed like new. Then she placed it on the antique dresser across the room, positioning it so the morning light would catch it perfectly, making it the room's focal point. She turned his most precious possession into a place of honor. "I hope that brings you comfort," Emma whispered as she finished dusting around the locket. "Everyone deserves to have their loved ones close." Nathan's eyes flew open the moment Emma left, tears already streaming down his cheeks. He stumbled to the dresser, where his mother's locket caught the afternoon sunlight exactly as Emma had intended. For the first time in years, looking at his mother's picture didn't bring crushing grief. It brought warmth. This woman, this stranger, had somehow understood exactly what he needed without him saying a word. Nathan picked up his phone with shaking hands, dialing his head of staff. "Mrs. Henderson, I need you to find out everything about Emma Larson. Her background, her family, her dreams, everything. And Henderson, make sure she's scheduled to return tomorrow. I have a feeling we're not finished testing each other yet." But as Nathan hung up, staring at his mother's gentle smile in the photograph, he realized with startling clarity that the test had never been about Emma at all. Nathan sits alone in his study that evening, turning his mother's locket over in his trembling hands. The weight of Emma's silent kindness crashes over him like a tidal wave he can no longer hold back. For 20 years, he's built walls around his heart, convinced that vulnerability equals weakness, that caring means losing control. But this shy maid, this gentle soul who honored his mother's memory without even knowing who she was, has shattered every defense he's constructed. The flashbacks come flooding back. His mother's warm smile, her gentle hands braiding his hair before school, the way she'd hum while cleaning their modest apartment before the money came. "Kindness costs nothing, Nathan," she'd whisper. "But it's worth everything." He'd forgotten those words, buried them beneath years of corporate ruthlessness and emotional armor. His phone buzzes with a message from his assistant. "Emma Larson has requested a transfer to the Henderson estate, effective immediately." Nathan's heart stops. She's leaving. The one person who saw through his test, who treated him with genuine care when she thought no one was watching, is walking away. Without hesitation, Nathan grabs his keys and races through the Manhattan streets toward Emma's modest Queens apartment. His hands shake as he knocks on her door, no longer the calculating CEO, but a broken man desperate to thank the angel who reminded him how to feel. Emma opens the door, her eyes widening in shock. "Mr. Prescott, how did you?" You were never just cleaning my room. Nathan's voice cracks, tears already blurring his vision. You were healing something I thought was permanently broken. He holds up the locket, his mother's photo gleaming in the hallway light. You honored her memory without even knowing who she was. When you placed this on her favorite dresser, exactly where she used to keep it. His voice breaks completely. Emma's hand flies to her mouth, understanding washing over her features. You were awake. You saw everything. I set up a test. Nathan admits, tears streaming down his face now. I wanted to see if you'd steal from me, cut corners, prove that everyone has a price. Instead, you showed me something I'd forgotten existed, pure, unconditional kindness. He steps closer, his voice barely a whisper. You answered my mother's phone calls with such gentleness. You organized my medications like you actually cared if I lived or died. You even left fresh flowers by her photograph. Emma's own tears begin to fall. I saw the sadness in that room, the loneliness. I couldn't help but try to bring a little light into it. That's exactly what my mother would have done. Nathan sobs, his shoulders shaking with 2 decades of suppressed grief. She died believing I'd never find genuine human connection again, that I'd chosen wealth over warmth, success over soul. Watching you care for someone you thought was sleeping, someone who'd done nothing to earn your kindness, you proved her wrong. Emma reaches out tentatively, her small hand covering his. Mr. Prescott. Nathan, he corrects. Please. I've been hiding behind titles and walls for so long. I forgot what it felt like to be seen as just human. You don't have to be alone anymore, Nathan, Emma says softly. Kindness isn't a transaction. It's not about what you earn or deserve. It's about recognizing the shared humanity in everyone we meet. Nathan pulls the job transfer letter from his pocket, tearing it in half. Don't leave. Not because I'm paying you, but because I finally understand what my mother meant. Wealth means nothing if you have no one to share your heart with. He looks directly into Emma's eyes. Would you consider being more than my employee? Would you help me remember how to be the man my mother raised me to be? Emma's smile illuminates her entire face as she nods, tears of joy replacing those of sympathy. I'd be honored to help you find your way back to yourself. As Nathan embraces this woman who saw his pain and answered it with grace, he feels his mother's presence surrounding them both. The test he designed to expose human selfishness instead revealed the profound truth that genuine love, whether familial, romantic, or simply human, isn't about what we can get, but what we're willing to give. 6 months later, Nathan's company launches its first homeless shelter initiative, with Emma as his partner in both business and life. The shy maid who once feared entering his room now stands beside him at charity galas, reminding him daily that the greatest wealth lies not in what we accumulate, but in the connections we nurture. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can awaken the largest transformations in the human heart.